Ambassador Velcris of the Galactic Harmony Council smoothed her iridescent feathers as she prepared for humanity's official introduction to the wider galaxy. For 3 cycles, the Council had monitored Earth's transmissions, cooing over the adorable primitives who sent golden records into space and built clumsy rockets. "They're like the Quillbacks were," chirped Representative Thun, his 6 eyes glistening with excitement. "Barely spacefaring, always curious, making friends with their domestic companions. Absolutely precious." The Council chamber buzzed with agreement. Humans had been classified as Category 7 cute, harmless, endearing, protected species. Their tendency to rescue small creatures, create art about feelings, and cry at emotional stories had melted hearts across 70 star systems. When the human delegation arrived at Unity Station, the entire council gathered to greet them. Captain Alexandra Morrison stepped off the transport, followed by her crew of 8. They looked exactly as expected, soft-skinned bipeds with expressive faces and those endearing little fingers. "On behalf of Earth," Morrison said with a warm smile, "we come in peace and friendship." Velcris felt her heart swell. So polite. So gentle. The welcoming ceremony proceeded beautifully. Humans accepted gifts of crystallized starlight and neural silk tapestries. They presented their own offerings, music recordings, literature, and something called chocolate. When Morrison's tactical officer sneezed, the entire council released sympathetic chirps. "Your journey must have been exhausting," Velcris said maternally. "We've prepared comfortable quarters where you can rest. Tomorrow, we'll begin cultural exchange and discuss Earth's integration into our peaceful alliance." Morrison's smile never wavered, but something flickered in her eyes. "That's very kind. Before we settle in, perhaps we should discuss Earth's recent history. We want to be transparent about who we are." "Oh, that won't be necessary," Thun assured her, patting her shoulder with one of his tentacles. "We've studied your broadcasts. We know all about you. Your love for small animals, your devotion to families, your creativity. You're going to fit right in." The human delegation exchanged glances that the council completely misinterpreted as humble embarrassment. "Well," Morrison said carefully, "there are some aspects of human history that might not have made it into entertainment broadcasts." "Nonsense," Velcris declared. "We've seen everything we need to see. You're exactly the kind of species the galaxy needs, gentle souls who will benefit from our protection and guidance." As the council members escorted the humans to their luxurious quarters, cooing and fussing over them like precious hatchlings, none of them noticed the weary resignation on the human faces. None of them had asked about Earth's military capabilities, survival adaptations, or evolutionary history. They would learn soon enough. The misunderstanding was complete, and the galaxy's perception of humanity was about to shatter like crystal in a supernova. The cultural exchange began in the Council's Grand Archive, a floating crystalline sphere containing the collected knowledge of 800 civilizations. Velcris had planned a simple presentation, show the humans how peaceful species contributed to galactic harmony, then give them a minor role in artistic preservation or emotional counseling. "Let's begin with your world's history," she suggested warmly. "We'd love to understand your cultural development." Morrison nodded to Lieutenant James Kowalski, their historian. He activated a holographic display, and the council members settled in with the eager anticipation of adults watching children perform a school play. Earth's dominant species, Homo sapiens, emerged approximately 300,000 years ago, Kowalski began. "We evolved as persistence hunters on the African savanna." "Hunters?" Thun interrupted, still smiling. "You mean gatherers, surely? Like the Quillbacks, who pick fruit." "No, hunters. We chased prey animals for hours, sometimes days, until they collapsed from exhaustion. Then we killed them with rocks and sharp sticks." The room fell silent. "But you evolved past that, yes?" Velcris asked hopefully. "Once you developed agriculture and civilization?" Kowalski scratched his beard. "Well, agriculture let us stay in one place, which meant we could support larger populations and develop specialized warfare techniques. The first cities came with the first organized armies. He advanced the presentation. Images of ancient battles filled the space: bronze swords, armored soldiers, siege weapons. This is artistic representation, yes. Representative Quellen whispered, her bioluminescent skin flickering with distress. Fiction for entertainment. Historical record, Kowalski confirmed. This is the Battle of Kadesh, 1274 BCE. 5,000 dead. Small by later standards. The presentation continued, and the council's horror grew with each era. Medieval warfare. Colonial conquest. Industrial-scale mechanized death. The images were pulled directly from human archives, photographs, videos, documentation that couldn't be dismissed as fiction. The First World War, Kowalski narrated. 20 million dead. Chemical weapons, machine guns, artillery. 4 years of continuous fighting. Velcris's feathers had flattened completely against her body, a defensive posture her species only adopted in mortal danger. Surely this was your worst moment, she ventured. After this, you embraced peace. 21 years later, we started the Second World War. 85 million dead. We invented nuclear weapons during this one. Kowalski's voice remained steady, professional. The 2 bombs we used on Japan each destroyed an entire city in seconds. The council chamber's ambient light dimmed as the automated systems responded to collective terror from its occupants. How many of these weapons do you have? Thun asked weakly. Currently, about 13,000 nuclear warheads. We've reduced the stockpile significantly since the 1980s, when we had about 70,000. Morrison stood, sensing the council had reached its limit. Perhaps we should pause here. We wanted you to understand that humans aren't exactly as you imagined. We're trying to be better, but our history is violent. Our evolution made us survivors, not poets. Velcris stared at the small, soft-looking biped who commanded a species capable of building 13,000 world-ending weapons. The creature who had smiled so gently while accepting gifts. Why did you bring us chocolate? She whispered. Why show us your art and music first? Morrison's expression softened with genuine sadness. Because that's who we're trying to become. But you deserve to know who we've been. The galaxy's cutest species had just become its most terrifying. 3 weeks after the history presentation, the council was still reeling. They'd moved the human delegation to a diplomatic residence that was really a monitored compound while they figured out what to do. Humanity hadn't applied for council membership to be protected, they'd applied to be equals. Everything changed when the distress signal came from Sector 9. Velcris was in emergency session when the communication burst through. Mayday. This is Mining Colony Terminus 7. We're under attack by unknown hostiles. They're tearing through our shields like static. Silence. The council chamber erupted in panic. Terminus 7 housed 12,000 civilians from 4 species, including younglings. The Sector 9 region had been peaceful for centuries. Dispatch the Harmony Fleet, Velcris ordered, but her military advisor's face fell. They're 6 days away at maximum speed. The colony has maybe 6 hours, someone else added desperately. What about the Crothian Defense Force? Thun suggested. 3 days. Velcris felt her feathers droop. They were going to lose 12,000 souls because the council had grown so comfortable with peace they'd never considered. We're 40 minutes away. Every head turned to Captain Morrison, who'd been standing quietly in the observation deck. She descended to the main floor with that predatory grace the council had mistaken for clumsiness. The ISS Perseverance is patrolling the outer rim. We can be there in 40 minutes. Permission to investigate? Your ship is a research vessel, Velcris protested. The energy signatures suggest a military force. You'll be destroyed. Morrison's smile was nothing like the gentle expression she'd worn at their first meeting. This smile had teeth. "Ambassador, with respect, you don't understand what a human research vessel is." 20 minutes later, Velcris watched from the Council's observation chamber as the Perseverance dropped out of hyperspace near Terminus 7. 6 hostile ships, each twice the size of the human vessel, surrounded the dying colony. The attackers' design was unfamiliar, organic-looking holes covered in weapon ports, technology that shouldn't exist. The lead hostile opened communication, probably to demand the human ship surrender. Morrison's response was 2 words, negative. Engage. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations. The Perseverance didn't have exploration sensors, those housings contained missile batteries. Her communication arrays were directed energy weapons. Her cargo bays launched fighters that moved with impossible agility, piloted by humans whose reaction times evolution had honed for tracking prey and avoiding predators. The human ship was smaller, but it moved like something alive, rolling and weaving through weapons fire that should have obliterated it. Her weapons weren't designed to disable or discourage, they were built to kill. 3 hostile ships were burning hulks within 5 minutes. Target their weapon systems. Velcris begged Morrison over the channel. Disable them. There's no need for. There's every need, Morrison cut her off, and her voice had gone cold. They attacked civilians. Children. There are rules. The 4th hostile ship tried to run. The Perseverance's fighters hunted it down like wolves chasing injured prey. When the last hostile vessel began broadcasting surrender, Morrison finally gave the ceasefire order. But she did something that chilled Velcris to her core. She had the survivors brought aboard not for trial or questioning, but for immediate medical treatment. "We'll patch them up and hand them over to your authorities," Morrison reported. "Colony's safe. Minimal casualties. The hostiles used some kind of shields our weapons aren't designed for, but we adapted." Velcris stared at the burning debris field, then at Morrison's calm face on the screen. "How?" she whispered. "You're researchers. Scientists." "We're humans," Morrison replied simply. "We're always both. We build hospitals and weapons, write poetry and military doctrine. It's who we are." The galaxy had just learned that humans weren't cute. They were apex predators playing at civilization. The emergency session was held in the Council's most secure chamber, buried deep within Unity Station's core. Every representative from the 70 core species attended, with hundreds more participating remotely. The topic: what do we do about humanity? They lied to us. Representative Quellen shrilled, her bioluminescence strobing with anxiety. They presented themselves as gentle, creative beings, then unleashed that violence. "We showed them exactly who we were," Morrison replied from the witness platform, flanked by her crew. "We gave you our art, our music, our literature, all of which includes thousands of years of war stories. We explicitly offered to explain our history. You called us cute and refused to listen." The chamber erupted in multilingual chaos until Velcris called for order. "Captain Morrison, help us understand. How can a species be so contradictory? You write love songs and build warships. You rescue animals and hunt prey. You cry at stories but kill efficiently. What are you?" Morrison was quiet for a long moment. "We're survivors. For millions of years, Earth tried to kill us. Predators, diseases, ice ages, droughts, floods. We evolved to be tough, adaptable, and yes, violent when necessary. But we also evolved empathy, cooperation, and creativity, because those traits helped us survive too. Other species evolved without becoming weapons," Thun argued. Lieutenant Kowalski stepped forward. "Did they? Or did they evolve on easier worlds? You've shown us your home planets, abundant resources, mild climates, few natural predators. Earth is a death world. 99% of all species that ever lived there went extinct. We're what's left. Death world. Velcris felt cold. Our gravity is heavy. Our weather is violent. Our diseases evolve rapidly. Our predators are efficient killers. Our plant life includes thousands of poisonous species. We evolved drinking diluted toxins and calling it coffee and alcohol for recreation. The council stared in horror. So you're saying, Representative Velcris said slowly, that violence is inherent to your nature? That you can't change? Morrison's expression hardened. No. I'm saying violence is one tool in our repertoire. We choose when and how to use it. Those hostiles at Terminus 7. They chose to attack civilians. We chose to stop them. We could have glassed their ships entirely, left no survivors. Instead, we disabled them and provided medical care. You killed most of them. Quellen protested. We saved 12,000 civilians. What would you have had us do? Arrive in 6 days and mourn prettily over the ashes? The silence was deafening. Velcris stood, her voice heavy with the weight of decision. The council must deliberate. Captain Morrison, your people have proven, complicated. You're neither the harmless children we imagined nor the mindless monsters we feared. We need time to understand what humanity's place in the galaxy should be. Take your time, Morrison said quietly. But understand this, we came here hoping for friendship, for partnership. We didn't come to be patronized or protected. Earth has been alone for its entire history. We can continue alone if we must. As the human delegation filed out, Thun whispered to Velcris, "What have we invited into our galaxy?" "I don't know," she replied, watching Morrison's straight-backed exit. "But I think the more important question is, what happens if we reject them?" The council had learned humans weren't cute. Now they had to decide if humanity was friend, threat, or something entirely new. In the observation deck, Morrison looked at the stars and wondered if humanity would ever find a place among them, or if they were doomed to be feared forever. While the council deliberated, news of Terminus 7 spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had ignored humanity's arrival now watched with keen interest. Among them were the Krillnak Dominion. The Krillnak were what passed for a warrior culture in council space, meaning they had a standing military and occasionally used stern words in diplomatic disputes. They'd been the galaxy's unofficial enforcers for 2 centuries, maintaining peace through the mere threat of their advanced fleet. High Commander Vex of the Krillnak watched the Terminus 7 battle footage for the 15th time, his 4 arms crossed in contemplation. His tactical officer, a younger Krillnak named Reth, shifted nervously. "Your assessment?" Vex demanded. "The humans are concerning, Commander. Their tactics suggest extensive combat experience. Their weapons technology is crude but effective. Their decision-making is aggressive. Primitive but dangerous," Vex mused. "Like finding a wild predator has wandered into a nursery school." He made his decision. The Krillnak would issue an ultimatum: humans would submit to Dominion oversight, restrict their military capabilities, and accept permanent monitors on their vessels. If they refused, the Dominion would enforce compliance. When Vex's ship arrived at Unity Station, the Council was mortified. "This is unnecessary," Velcris pleaded. "We're handling the situation diplomatically." "Your diplomacy moves at glacial pace," Vex replied, his voice resonant and commanding. "The humans are a threat. They will submit or be contained. It's very simple." Morrison was called to the council chamber. She arrived to find Vex standing at the center, his 7-foot frame imposing in ceremonial armor that had never seen real battle. "Captain Morrison," he began, "the Krillnak Dominion cannot allow an uncontrolled military power to operate in council space. You will accept our terms or face consequences." Morrison studied him with the same calm she'd shown during combat. "What consequences?" "Our fleet will blockade your solar system." Any human vessel leaving Earth's orbit will be destroyed. Your species will remain contained until you've matured sufficiently to join civilized society. The council held its collective breath. This was it: humanity would either submit or prove themselves the monsters everyone feared. Morrison smiled, and Velcris recognized it as the dangerous smile from the battle. Commander Vex, I appreciate your concern. But there's something you should understand about humans: we don't respond well to ultimatums. You have no choice. Our fleet is superior in every metric. Is it? Morrison activated her datapad. Your ships are larger, yes. More advanced, absolutely. But tell me, when's the last time the Krillnak fleet engaged in actual combat? Vex stiffened. 170 years ago, against pirates. And lost how many ships in that engagement? None. The pirates surrendered immediately. Exactly. You're intimidators, not warriors. Your entire military doctrine is based on looking scary enough that no one fights back. But humans? Morrison's voice dropped. We've been at war with ourselves for our entire history. We've spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of killing. Every human ship captain has studied Sun Tzu, Clausewitz, and 100 other military philosophers. Every human soldier trains for combat they hope never comes. She stepped closer to Vex, fearless despite his size. You want to blockade Earth? Try it. We've already mapped your fleet positions. We've analyzed your weapons signatures. We've identified 17 critical weaknesses in your defensive formations. And if you force us to fight, we won't stop at breaking your blockade. We'll hunt down every ship you send, disable your command structure, and do it all while minimizing casualties because unlike you, we actually understand violence. The chamber was silent enough to hear Starlight. You're bluffing, Vex said, but his voice wavered. Morrison turned to Velcris. Ambassador, may I show the commander something? She activated a holographic display showing Earth's solar system. Hundreds of satellites, stations, and defensive platforms dotted the space around the planet. This is just what we've built in the century since we achieved space flight. Every human on Earth grew up learning about the Fermi paradox, the question of why we seem to be alone in the universe. We spent decades assuming that if aliens existed, they might be hostile. So we prepared. She zoomed out, showing vast structures in the outer solar system. These are our defense platforms. These are our rapid response fleets. These are our strategic reserve weapons systems. Not because we wanted war, but because we learned a long time ago that hoping for peace while preparing for war is better than the alternative. Vex stared at the display, his confidence crumbling. You're not the first to threaten us, Commander, Morrison said quietly. You're just the first from space. The galaxy realized something terrifying: humans weren't scary because they were violent. They were scary because they were good at it. 3 days after Vex's humiliating withdrawal, the council chamber buzzed with unprecedented tension. Representatives huddled in species groups, arguing in hushed tones. The question wasn't whether humans were dangerous anymore, that had been thoroughly established. The question was what to do about it. Velcris stood at the central podium, exhausted. The past week had aged her decades. We cannot ignore the human question any longer. I open the floor to proposals. Representative Quellen spoke first, her voice shaking. Quarantine. We seal their system, prohibit contact, and leave them alone. It's the only safe option. That's imprisonment, countered Representative Mordak of the silicon-based Lithians. Besides, they'd never accept it. We'd create an enemy. Better a contained enemy than a loose one, Quellen shot back. What about integration? Thun suggested hesitantly. Heavily monitored, restricted military access, gradual cultural exchange. You want to slowly absorb a species of predators into our civilization? Quellen's bioluminescence flared red. That's insane. Is it? The new voice came from Elder Cass, a member of one of the galaxy's oldest species. The ancient being rarely spoke, and the chamber fell silent. Every species in this council faced the same question when we encountered each other. Trust or fear? Cooperation or isolation? But none of them were like humans. Quellen protested. Weren't we? Cass fixed her with an ancient gaze. The Lithians nearly destroyed 3 species in territorial wars before achieving peace. The Torvan fought a civil war that lasted 6 generations. My own people practiced ritual combat until 2,000 years ago. Every species here has violence in their past. Humans simply carry theirs more recently. Velcris felt hope stir. Elder Cass, what do you propose? I propose we stop thinking of humans as children to protect or monsters to contain. They're neither. They're simply young and dangerous, like we all once were. Cass turned to address the entire council. Look at the Terminus 7 incident not as an example of human violence, but of human values. They could have ignored the distress call. They could have arrived, destroyed the hostiles without warning, without mercy. Instead, they risked their lives to save strangers and showed restraint even in victory. Restraint? Quellen sputtered. They killed. They killed attackers while protecting civilians. They acted exactly as we claim to value, defending the innocent, showing mercy to the defeated. Yes, they did it efficiently and violently, but isn't that preferable to ineffective pacifism that lets innocents die? The chamber erupted in debate. Velcris let it continue for several minutes before calling order. Elder Cass, what specifically are you suggesting? A partnership. Not membership, not yet. Let humans serve as what they've proven they can be, protectors. We have exploration fleets with no real defense. We have border regions with piracy issues we're too gentle to address effectively. We have threats we don't know how to handle because we've forgotten how to fight. You want to make them our soldiers? Mordak asked. I want to make them our partners. They bring capabilities we lack. In return, we offer them what they came seeking: knowledge, technology, acceptance. We let them evolve culturally while contributing their strengths. Velcris considered this. It was radical, possibly dangerous, but there's wisdom here, she admitted. But we need human input. Captain Morrison. Morrison, who'd been standing in the observation area, came forward. Her crew flanked her, and Velcris noticed they all wore simple uniforms, no weapons, no armor. A deliberate choice to appear non-threatening. Captain, you've heard the debate. What does humanity want? Morrison took a breath. We want what we've always wanted, to not be alone anymore. For 300,000 years, we thought we were the only intelligent life in the universe. Finding you, finding all of this, she gestured to the diverse species around them, it's everything we dreamed of. But we won't beg for acceptance, and we won't pretend to be something we're not. Elder Cass suggests a partnership. Your people's military capabilities in exchange for cultural and technological exchange. What say you? Morrison looked at her crew, some silent communication passing between them, then back to Velcris. We accept, with conditions. 1. We're not your attack dogs. We'll defend, we'll protect, but we won't be used for aggression or conquest. 2. Our people and culture are respected, not changed or civilized. 3. This is a two-way street, you learn from us, we learn from you. And 4. We're working toward full council membership, not permanent second-class status. Velcris felt her feathers rise, not in fear, but in something like excitement. Those terms seem reasonable. Council. The vote took hours, but eventually passed, 53 in favor, 12 against, 5 abstaining. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not as cute pets or terrifying monsters, but as the guardians nobody knew they needed. 6 months into the partnership, Morrison stood on the bridge of the Perseverance, now officially designated as Council Guard Vessel 001. Her crew had nearly doubled with advisors, liaisons, and observers from a dozen species. It had been an adjustment for everyone. "Captain, we're approaching the designated coordinates," announced her navigator, Lieutenant Jackson. The mission was straightforward: investigate mysterious attacks on mining convoys in the Thelos Expanse. 3 ships had vanished without distress signals. The Council scouts found no wreckage, no clues, just absence. Velcris, now officially the Human Integration Ambassador, chirped nervously from her station. She'd insisted on accompanying this mission, claiming she needed to understand human operations. Morrison suspected she was actually there to ensure they didn't commit any atrocities. "Sensors picking up something," reported Marcus Thompson, their tactical officer. "Energy signature, bearing 284, Mark 17. It's weird, keeps phasing in and out of normal space." "Like a cloaking device?" Morrison asked. "Not exactly. More like, it's not entirely in our dimension." A chill ran down Morrison's spine. "Battle stations. Whatever took those convoys, I think we found it." The thing that shimmered into view defied description. Organic yet mechanical, larger than their ship, covered in what looked like living metal that rippled and flowed. No visible weapons, no communication attempts, it simply existed, impossible and terrifying. "I'm reading massive energy buildup," Thompson warned. The creature, ship, entity, fired something that wasn't quite light and wasn't quite matter. The Perseverance's shield screamed in protest. "Return fire," Morrison ordered. Their weapons hit the target, but it simply absorbed the energy, growing brighter. Whatever this thing was, conventional attacks weren't working. "Captain," Velcris called out. "Stop shooting. You're feeding it." Morrison instantly called ceasefire. This was why they needed the Council's perspective. Humans would have kept shooting until either they or it died. "Options?" she demanded. "Its energy signature fluctuates," called out Dr. Emily Rodriguez, their science officer. "Every 7.3 seconds it's almost fully in our dimension, then it phases out. If we could hit it during that peak moment." "With what?" "Our weapons just make it stronger." "Not weapons," Rodriguez said, her eyes lighting up. "Gravity. We hit it with everything we've got at the exact moment it's fully dimensional, we might knock it into an unstable orbit around that nearby neutron star." "That's insane," Thompson muttered. "That's brilliant," Morrison countered. "How do we generate that much gravitational force?" Rodriguez grinned. "We overload our engines and detonate them remotely while attached to the target. The explosion won't hurt it, but the gravitational shockwave in higher dimensions might. That leaves us without main propulsion in hostile territory." "I know." Morrison looked at Velcris. "Ambassador, this could go very wrong. We could be stranded here." Velcris's feathers were flat with fear, but her voice was steady. "You're asking my permission. We're partners. Your call matters." The alien creature fired again. Shields held, barely. Velcris looked at the nightmare creature that had destroyed Council ships, then at the humans calmly discussing sacrificing their own engines to stop it. These strange, violent, brilliant people who could have run but chose to fight, who could have ignored her input but asked anyway. "Do it," she said. The next 3 minutes were chaos. They maneuvered close to the creature while Rodriguez and her team rigged the engines to explosive overload. Thompson coordinated the timing, counting down with mechanical precision. At the perfect moment, they ejected the engines, detonated them, and flooded the area with exotic gravitational waves. The creature screamed, they felt it rather than heard it, as it was hurled toward the neutron star. It tried to phase out, but the gravitational forces trapped it partially in normal space. The last they saw, it was spiraling into an orbit that would take decades to escape. Emergency power kicked in. They'd won, but they were effectively stranded. "Well," Morrison said into the silence, "that was new." Velcris started laughing, a high-pitched, trilling sound that her species only made in moments of intense emotional release. "You're all insane." "Magnificent, but insane." "We're human," Morrison replied with a grin. "It's what we do." The rescue fleet arrived 2 days later. By then, human crew and alien observers had formed something unexpected: friendship. They'd shared emergency rations, humans had to explain why other species found their preserved foods terrifying, told stories, and discovered that fear shared became courage multiplied. When they returned to Unity Station, the Council was waiting. Not with suspicion or fear this time, but with something else: respect. "Captain Morrison," Velcris announced formally, "the Council has reviewed your mission. Your tactical thinking, your innovation, your willingness to sacrifice your own safety for the mission, these are the qualities we hope to find in our partnership." She paused, her feathers rising in what Morrison had learned was the equivalent of a smile. "The Council votes to grant humanity provisional membership status, with full membership consideration in 5 years. Welcome to the galactic community, not as weapons, not as pets, but as equals." Morrison felt her throat tighten. "Thank you. You won't regret this." "Oh, we probably will," Velcris said with that trilling laugh. "You're going to drag us into all sorts of dangerous situations, teach us bad habits, and make us question everything we thought we knew about peace and civilization." "Probably," Morrison admitted. "Good. We've been comfortable too long. Time we remembered that peace isn't the absence of conflict, it's the choice to build something better despite our capacity for violence. You humans understand that better than anyone." As Morrison looked at the diverse species gathered to welcome humanity, she thought about the long journey from that first awkward contact. The galaxy had thought humans were cute, then terrifying, and finally realized they were something more complex: people. Dangerous, yes. Violent, when necessary. But also brave, innovative, and absolutely committed to becoming better than their history. The day the galaxy realized humans are not cute was the day a real partnership began: messy, complicated, and absolutely worth it. Somewhere on Earth, children looked up at stars that were no longer empty, dreaming of the adventures awaiting them among species who had finally learned to see humanity clearly, not as monsters or innocents, but as perfectly imperfect fellow travelers through the cosmos. And that was the greatest gift of all.